Okay. Good morning. Welcome to another edition of Financially Speaking. And this is the last Tuesday in January 2026. It's really amazing, how time goes by so quickly. On Saturday, we'll have January 31st. Sunday will be February 1st. And that's just how life is. Life is very fast. Life is very time. And I think that's why it's very important for us, because time goes by so fast. It's important for us to always plan, especially those individuals who are on the verge of retirement. Don't wait until retirement. My article last week was, plan now. Don't wait until you get retired to plan. And then you get caught up. You're surprised. You say, oh my God, this is what I'm getting. And so today I want to continue this conversation on retirement. Last week, the National Insurance Board was on, and they did a very good job explaining and informing us on the policies and the minimum requirements and how much you will get if you contribute so much. And it was very informative. And I know it was good because after the show I had so many calls. A lot of people not aware, even though it's been around since '92, a lot of people still not aware of all those features. And so today now we're going to talk now more or less about the government side of things for civil servants. I think the government is the largest employer in the country, and then beaches. Anyways, between those two. And I think it's very critical because we have a lot of civil servants who have reached that mandatory age, they have retired, and some of them are in a state of shock because they didn't know this is what they were going to get. And with that said, I want to welcome the Deputy Governor who's been on the show. This is probably her fourth time on the show. And I know she's very busy, especially today, but she still came on the show today, and I want to appreciate her for coming, and thank you very much for being on the show.
Thank you so much for having me, Mr. Seymour. And as you said earlier, we are nearing the end of January, but at the same time, I haven't seen so many persons since the year began, so I want to start by wishing everyone a happy new year and all the best in the year ahead to you and your families. I hope that this year will be a rewarding and a blessing one for each of you.
Very good. Yeah, that's right. Happy New Year. You're right. We haven't seen a lot of people. I want to go right into the topic. I know, is it 2022 when the government introduced that pension plan?
Yes. So the government introduced a new pension plan effective April 1st, 2022. Now, prior to that, the government had a different pension program, of course, because we have what we call the pre-1992 program. Mm-hmm. April 6, 1992 is an important date in the Turks and Caicos Islands because it is the date when national insurance was established. And so all employees that joined the public service post April 6, 1992 are eligible for national insurance pension and are not eligible for a government pension under the old scheme. The old scheme provided a pension that was calculated based on your number of years and months of service. I would want to say it was a very generous pension program. It was a fully funded government program. However, when national insurance was established in 1992, that program ceased for public servants.
Discontinued.
It was discontinued because the expectation was that public servants, like other persons in the country, would then receive a national insurance pension.
We had a plan.
Yes, exactly. So there would be no more monthly pension payments to anyone who joined on April 6, 1992.
Okay.
Following on from that, the government, though, between 1992 and the interim administration, continued to pay employees what was called a gratuity. So a gratuity is actually a portion of your pension payment because it's an upfront payment that is calculated based on your pension.
So the gratuity payment was for those persons who joined before April.
The gratuity was meant to be for persons who joined before 1992. Mm-hmm. But between 1992 and the interim administration, they continued to not pay a pension, but when persons left the civil service, similar to how persons maybe leave the private sector, they're paid a terminal benefit, they were paid a gratuity.
I see.
When the interim administration came into office, they ceased those payments because they said there was no basis for it. There was no legal basis for it because it was the gratuity payment was supposed to be based on your pension payment, and there was no entitlement because national insurance was in place.
Okay, so that's up to 2012 then.
Yes, and that posed significant challenges for us because between 2012 and 2022, when we implemented the new program, there were persons that left the public service that did not leave with any form of terminal benefit other than their vacation payment. And so that means that if someone had passed away, if something happened in the service, if they retired, they were not receiving any payment at all for their years of service. We found that to be very, very difficult for many persons because their national insurance payments were not sufficient to carry them through retirement.
Right.
And so we worked on developing a new pension program, a new gratuity and pension program. We call it a terminal benefits program because it's not a pension payment. You don't receive a monthly payment. It's more of a lump sum payment.
Okay.
But as of April 2022, we launched a new program in the public service that is a contributory program where government contributes 3% and the employee contributes 3% to a terminal benefit. So all persons that joined the public service prior to April 1st, 2022 receive 3% of their salary on that date as a past service credit.
Okay, so they didn't have to pay for that?
No, government fully paid for that. As of April 1st, 2022, civil servants then receive 6% of their salary for their terminal benefit payment. The 6% was also fully funded by government because government gave a salary increase to cover both the 3% on behalf of the employee, and government of course covered their 3%. So any person joining the public service after April 1st, 2022 is entitled to 6% of their salary for a terminal benefit. And also you have a past service credit of 3%.
Okay, so there's the 6% is 6% of the annual.
Your basic annual salary, yes.
And it'll be a one-off payment when they retire.
When you retire, it is spread over 2 years because you don't want persons to receive the full amount and then afterwards. Because what we found is that even in the severance payment, persons received their funds and then afterwards it was depleted in a very short time. And so we try to phase it over 2 years, but you can receive, I believe, up to $25,000 the first year, and then afterwards you can receive the balance afterwards. But it's to spread the payment in some format.
All right, so that's good to know. So
yes.
So those persons that retired last year, that was just a portion. They'll get the next lump sum.
Yes, if it's over $25,000, yes.
If it's over $25,000.
Yes.
Okay.
Now that program has been in operation now for almost 4 years. The government, as I said, funded the program. It is a contributory program, and so we have separate bank accounts set up for that. To date, that pension account holds over $40 million.
Really?
Yes.
Oh, wow.
So we've made very, very sizable contributions to that program. It doesn't only include the public service, it also includes a number of the statutory bodies. So Airports Authority is included in that program. We also have most of the other statutory bodies included also. And so that program is to account for those agencies' terminal benefits. One of the key pieces of work that we're doing is that we tendered for an administration for that program.
I remember seeing that tender.
So we put out a tender for the administration so they would manage the program on our behalf, but also so that they would invest the funds. And we're now at the conclusion of that tender process. We have 2 successful bidders, well-established pension administration firms. I can't announce today the name of the company that's winning the award because they're still doing final work, but they both have very good investment programs through BlackRock. And so we hope that those funds would be invested and that public servants can actually earn interest on the funds that are in the account so that it will help to grow it beyond the 6% that they're currently promised.
That's very good, because that's one of my questions. How are we going to ensure that the pension fund remain viable? So it's good that you're getting an administrator to manage and monitor that.
And we currently have a pension board. As head of the public service, I'm the chair of the pension board, but the membership includes the permanent secretary of finance, the CEO of the National Insurance Board, because of course they are very familiar with pension funds and investment management. Also the financial controller from the Turks and Caicos Islands Airports Authority, which is one of our largest statutory bodies. She sits on the board, and then we have representation, of course, from the Attorney General's chambers and also the Civil Service Association. So we have a pension board that manages those funds on behalf of all of our employees.
Okay, great. So but those persons that started before April 6, 1992, they will get this, plus they'll get...
No. So the persons who started before April 6, 1992 receive a pension from government, and they would receive their NIB pension.
So they won't be receiving...
No, not under this program, no, because they wouldn't have been contributors to this program.
Oh.
So if you started after 1992, you are a part of the previous civil service program where you receive a monthly pension from TCIG.
So employees so are you saying then civil servants who started before April 92 are not paying 3% to this plan?
No.
Oh.
It's only for employees that started afterwards, yes.
I see, to help them.
Yes. Because they didn't have a terminal benefits program.
So the plan before April 92, is it just as good as this one?
No, the plan actually, quite frankly, the plan before 1992 was a more generous program because it was fully funded by TCIG. It was based on your months in the public service. It provided you a 25% upfront gratuity payment should you elect to do so. So the plan before 2022 was a bit more generous, but our actuarial report said that it was unsustainable.
Oh, okay.
So we couldn't implement the same program again because it just put too much responsibility on government, particularly because our numbers have grown.
Yeah.
So our public service now, we have 2,500 employees. And so then you look at the impact that that would have on government based on our salary cap right now, because I continue to say to persons that while there are requests for additional staff, everyone always says we need more staff, we need more staff. And while staffing is a part of the solution, there has to be investment in technology, system, structuring of procedures, because fixed staffing costs are fixed costs.
Yeah.
In the Turks and Caicos economy, we have a very vulnerable economy. We do not have direct forms of taxation. Most of our revenue is derived from tourism. Tourism is, of course, very vulnerable to shocks because you can have a national security crisis like 9/11. You can have hurricanes. You can have right now the winter storm that's happening that's affecting flights, and it means it impacts our revenue. And so we don't want to be in a position where we're not able to manage our fixed costs. And so we try to maintain our fixed costs, which is salaries and all personal emoluments, even pension payments, to less than 40% of our government expenditure. Because that is what is seen to be a best practice ratio.
Yeah, you have to monitor that.
Yeah, so we monitor that. So the new program is contributory. Government, as I said, began the initial injection by giving a salary increase to cover public servants' contributions, and government is contributing 3%. In addition to that, if there are savings at the end of the financial year, the reason why we've been able to accumulate so much so quickly is because if there are savings at the end of the year, particularly on manpower, government has in the past transferred some of those savings to the pension account.
Okay, that makes sense. So the plan is, I know you say this is in a separate account, the new one.
Yes.
Is the old one in a separate account, or is it with the consolidated?
The old one was not funded. So it was with the consolidated fund. It was funded on an annual basis.
Okay.
That was a challenge because there was no funding set aside for it. So it meant the government every year, depending on who was retiring that year, had to budget for it. So in any given year, you could have a few persons retire, and then in some years you could have a large number of persons retire, and then you needed to then compensate for those funds.
I got you. And so when they retire, those persons that worked before 92, when they retire, they will get, you say 25%, they can get 25%?
They can convert, because your gratuity is actually an upfront portion of your pension payment. So what they would do is they would calculate that this is your pension payment, your total pension amount for the entire life, for your annuity payment. And then as a portion of that, you can receive 25% of that as your gratuity payment.
And the rest monthly? The
rest monthly, but it means that you have a reduced monthly payment.
Right, because if you elect to get up to, but the lump sum, then the rest.
Yes. I believe one of the biggest challenges that we have is that persons do not understand the law and the entitlements. And that has posed the biggest challenge, because we have persons who have recently retired, have been in the public service for 30 years, but because they joined in 1992, for example, didn't understand that because they joined after April 1992, they're not qualified under the old program, and they wouldn't be able to receive a monthly pension. Quite honestly, I believe that a lot of persons wait until they're very close to retirement to then start to gain more of an understanding of what their retirement benefits are. And then at that time, it's very late, because they then realize that they still have mortgages or other commitments, and it's a challenge for them. The public service retirement age is 60. There has been discussions regarding increasing the retirement age, but there has been a split in the public service on that, because we have now a lot of more younger persons in the public service. And whereas previously persons joined the public service and they look forward to staying here for 30 and 40 years, a lot of the younger staff do not intend to stay 20, 30, 40 years. They intend to join to look for other opportunities. And so they want a program that is more progressive, that allows them to leave the public service but still receive their benefits much sooner. Currently, under the law, you can work until 65 with permission from the governor, but it's on the recommendation from the ministry. And so I know that there's a lot of discussion about persons complaining, saying that some persons were allowed to stay on and other persons weren't. I will say to you that categorically that I have never denied any request from a ministry to extend someone. But if they have been requested, if they come direct from the employees, we've had to check back with the ministries, and the ministry has to make a recommendation for that person to stay on, because it's on the basis that the ministry feels like the person is needed because of additional work or because they can't recruit the skill set. But there is a division on the issue because of the fact that there are persons who are in the public service, much younger persons, that are looking for opportunities for upward mobility. And they believe that when persons go into some of these positions, because we provide lifetime employment in most cases, that they hold on to positions for 20 and 30 years, and it stifles their opportunity to move into those roles. And so there has been discussions on it. There is work that's ongoing on whether or not we should change the retirement age, because there is a big discussion about pensions and affordability and age of retirement. So it is something that we are working on, but currently the retirement age is 60.
Yeah, I mean, last week on the show, after the show, I had a few calls, and some of the persons say they're very tired. They're ready to retire at 60. But I still feel that, I need working on it. I still feel that there should be an option.
Yes.
Personally, I think 60 is too young. I'll be 60 in the next 4 years, and I think 60 is too young. I think people should have an option. Okay, the minimum is 60. Okay, you can retire at 60. But if you want to retire at 65 to be in line with the NIB, because the NIB retirement age is 65, of course they can elect 62, but they lose the full benefits. So I think we could consider looking at the option.
Yes.
Not making it mandatory at 65, but give an option after so many years that they could do it.
Yes.
I think that's something I think we should consider.
I agree. I certainly agree with that, and that is one of the options that we were considering. But I recently attended the Global Government Summit, and a part of the discussion was on public services, of course, and employee engagement. And one of the discussions actually that was led by the UK head of the public service and cabinet secretary was that over the years, governments have had a flawed approach in attracting talent. And how the governments have gone about it is saying, come and join the government. Salaries aren't that great, but you get a good pension. And she said that that's a flawed way of attracting persons, because what it's doing is encouraging persons that stay in the organization as long as you can, so you can get this reward at the end.
Yeah, think long term.
Think long term, because you want to get this reward at the end. But she said that that doesn't really help to build talent, because persons stay in a job for too long, and sometimes they lose productivity, or you lose the opportunity to recruit talent to those positions also. So that's what our new starters in the public service are saying to us, like that we shouldn't expect them to want to be in the same job for 30, 40 years, because it just doesn't meet this new generation's expectations. So it has to be a proper balance between the two. So we are looking at the options, because the reality is that affordability post-retirement is an issue for persons in the Turks and Caicos Islands.
Okay. And then you mentioned that you've never turned on any requests for extension, so that extension is available. It's available, but only on the recommendation of the ministry responsible. Yes. So how will that employee be informed that the extension was approved? Well, the process is that they would have to indicate through their ministry, or the ministry would then speak to the person and write to my office to say that this person is close to retirement. However, we believe that there's a need for this person to continue on post the age of 60, because there are these deficiencies in the department, there are challenges to recruit, this person is working on this project, or whatever the case may be, and so an extension is granted on that basis. But if an employee simply writes in and says, I would like to stay beyond 60, if there's no recommendation in place from the ministry, then the approach is taken with the consultation is considered with the ministry as to whether or not there is the opportunity to recruit for that post. And there are some posts where we have significant interest. So, for example, in customs and immigration and so on, and a customs or immigration officer may be up for retirement, and that person may wish to stay on longer. But those positions, generally, when we recruit, we're receiving over 100 applications for 4 and 5 positions at a time. So there is interest in those positions. So it doesn't really dictate then that that person should stay on, because there is an opportunity to fill that. There's a big demand for those roles. I understand what you're saying. So obviously there is a breakdown, I don't know, of misinformation or lack of planning. What do you think we need to do for individuals to be better informed about retirement? I mean, do we need a financial literacy, or do we need to give them statements? I mean, what do you think we need to do? Because too many people are in a predicament where it's only when they retire and they say, this is what I'm getting, and then they end up rowing you guys out.
Of course.
What do you think we should do?
Public education and awareness is key. Persons have to understand their entitlements, and I think we have to do more at explaining that to them so that they can be aware. One of the things that we're working on under our new program and as a part of the pension administration is that we've asked in that tender for there to be an online portal developed that persons can log in and they can review their monthly statements so they can see the same way how we give pay stubs every month that shows what your salary is. You should also be able to have an understanding of what your retirement benefits are. So you shouldn't have to wait until you retire for someone to then show you a calculation to say this is your retirement benefit, and then you have to try to work out whether or not that is sufficient for you. Because if you can monitor your terminal benefits while you're still employed, it helps you to be able to better plan your finances for retirement.
Yeah.
I believe also that we've had a lot of requests for persons that have left the public service to consider their pension requests, and I think understanding of the law is extremely important because the pre-1992 law, it had a lot of restrictions, and so under that pre-1992 law, if you were in the public service, even if you were there for 30 years, if you resigned from the public service before your retirement age, which at the time was 55, you lost your pension.
Oh, so you only get it when you retire?
Yes.
Okay.
So it didn't matter how many years you serve if you didn't retire in the public service, because we have a number of former public servants that have written in that have said that I served in the public service for 30 years, I left and I didn't receive any pension. But when we went back and checked the law, it's because the law required you to actually retire in post. So if you resigned from post, you forfeited it.
Yeah.
Now the request to the government is whether or not the government considers amending that law. When we launched a new pension program in April 2022, we still have 100 public servants that are under the old program. And so because those persons are long-serving public servants, we put in an amendment to the pre-1992 law that stated that if you serve for over 30 years, you're guaranteed your pension.
Oh, that's nice. That's nice.
But we did not backdate it. It was not backdated, and so there are persons that are asking,
oh, you mean people already left?
Yes.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. It's going forward.
It's going forward.
Okay.
So anyone that leaves since that law was passed in 2022, even if they left before retirement, they're entitled to their pension. But it was not backdated. So there are persons that are asking for it to be backdated. Similarly, when we began the program in 2022 for the public servants, it only was for current public servants. And so there are public servants that left between 2012 and 2022 that did not receive a terminal benefit, and they are asking that the new pension program be backdated to allow the persons for those 10 years to be able to collect a payment. Now, government has to carefully consider that because, of course, finances. One of the things, though, that we are doing is that the Premier has asked, and the Premier and I have met on this, that we at least do calculations to see how many persons left between that gap period and what it would cost.
Which is 92 to 2012.
2012 to 20.
Oh,
yes,
2000.
Yes, 2000, because between 1992 and 2012, they still...
Oh, they were paying.
Yes, they were paying.
So 2012 to 2020.
Yes, so 2012 to 2022, whether or not we could still consider paying some form of a ex gratia payment to those persons, because many of them did not receive any payment. So there's a lot of work and a lot of discussions on pension. It is a very, very live issue here in the Turks and Caicos Islands because cost of living is increased, and persons do not believe that, you know, that the funds that they're receiving post-retirement is sufficient to be able to assist them with their costs. And I know that
people are getting older.
The National Insurance was on last week as well, and I know that they would have explained how their calculations are done. National Insurance also has their actuarial reports, and so they're very cautious as to how they increase pensions and so on. But it is a very, very live discussion.
It is. A lot of people are turning 60, you know, because National Insurance now has been in existence for, I think they say, for 33 years or so. So now their program is coming to that full, where people are going to get the full, you know, the maximum.
Yes, exactly,
you know?
exactly.
But speaking about cost of living, with this new pension scheme that was implemented in 2022, what I know you're recruiting a pension planner, I guess you call them. What plans will be put in place to accommodate inflation?
So that the inflation will be accommodated not necessarily through the pension program, but through constant reviews of government salaries.
I see.
And so since I've been in this post since October 2012, and since that period we've had 3 separate pay adjustments. We of course had the reinstatement of the 10% deduction, and then we had two salary increases since then. One was specifically to cover the pension program, and one was just a general salary increase. We also had the pay and grading review, which was done, which injected over $25 million into government salaries, which saw significant increases in key areas.
Yeah.
So, for example, in the education sector, principals received over 50% salary increase. But what we found with that is that
the Ministry of Health
the Ministry of Health had over 25% salary increases for their staff as well as for frontline officers. But what we note with that is that you shouldn't wait every 5 to 10 years to do a review. There has to be constant reviews of salaries based on inflation and based on external factors.
Right.
In our new salary review, we also account for inflation by the fact that we have an increment program. So every 2 years, public servants, based on successful appraisals, are entitled to receive an increment. And that increment is around 3%, average 3% salary increase.
But it's based on performance, right?
Based on performance. So we implemented that program in December of 2024, and our first increments are now going to be this year. So we're in an appraisal period right now. We're coming to an appraisal period in March, and as of April and so on, we'll start to make increment payments. So persons should be able to move in that scale, but that allows you every 2 years to be able to have a small adjustment and increase in your salary.
Yeah, that makes sense. And of course, if your salary is increased, your pension automatically increase because it's based on the 3% is based on your salary. So that will impact.
That will impact your pension because your salaries would not remain static.
Right.
And so that is the intention on that. We are also, though, reforming our performance appraisal system because we recognize the complaints regarding service delivery. And while, as I said, it's easy to say that we need more staff, it's important for us to note also that staff need to perform to their full potential.
Absolutely.
Persons need to be performance managed, they need to be appraised, and they need to be held accountable.
Yeah.
So we have launched a new performance appraisal that's better aimed at improving performance across government by holding staff more accountable, looking at the threshold for pass marks. So the pass mark for that is 60%, but 60% is on the lower end. So we still ask for if you pass with 60% to have further improvements, but making it more easier for appraisals to be conducted so staff can be held more accountable and service delivery across government can improve.
Yeah. Speaking about staff appraisal, right? I know came to talk about this, but okay, when I was at Cape and Wireless, right? I mean, we had an appraisal system. Yes, we appraise our staff, but it's also 360.
Yes.
I think that's what we call it.
360 feedback, yes.
And you get appraised too as a manager leader. Is that also being done in the civil service department?
That is being fed into the new appraisal process.
Oh, the new program, so it's not being done right now.
It is being fed into the new appraisal process, but also as a part of the work that we're doing also because we launched a new public service roadmap last June. We are looking at how we better engage the public also in providing feedback, and so we are setting up a dedicated complaints email address that persons, if they have service delivery or other concerns, they can address their complaints to. We are putting in ministries and departments the happy or not kiosks where you can, if you're exiting the department, you can rate your service that you've received through those machines. You don't only have to just press the faces to say whether you're happy or not. It also provides you with the opportunity that you can provide commentary and so on. So all this will help in providing 360 feedback on how our employees are performing.
All right. Maybe someone is asking about what are the benefits, because I don't know much about civil servants. What are the benefits for bi-weekly civil servants upon retirement? I'm not sure.
Yes. So as of
are they treated different?
So the only difference currently, because previously bi-weekly employees under the pre-1992 program did not receive a pension.
Oh, really?
No.
Even though they're full-time?
Even though they were full bi-weekly employees, only received an ex gratia payment, which means that at the end of their tenure, they received a small lump sum to thank them for their service. Under the 2022 program, and since we did the pay and grading review, bi-weekly employees are treated as the same as full-time employees.
Oh, okay.
And so if you are bi-weekly and you retire, you will receive the 6% as well. So if you're treated bi-weekly employee, the only difference between bi-weekly employees and monthly employees is that they receive their payments bi-weekly every 2 weeks, and that's because a lot of persons in those jobs have said that because their salaries are on the lower end, they prefer to receive them bi-weekly.
I understand.
But to be honest with you, there are some countries that are moving to bi-weekly salaries. So, for example, the Bahamas and others are doing bi-weekly salaries. Turks and Caicos hasn't considered moving towards that, but it is a consideration that some of the other territories are doing, because persons believe it's easier for them to manage their money if they have it in two separate sums and one lump sum.
Yeah, but I mean, most of us in the private sector do that. We pay most of us pay our staff bi-weekly.
Yeah, but in the government, I don't see it as a big challenge, because to be quite honest, sometimes we pay our staff the 15th, the 18th of the month for the entire month.
You know what? You know what? I was so amazed by that when I heard employees. My daughter works for the government.
Yes.
And the 18, 19, they really get paid. I say, what? That's so generous.
Exactly.
I said, they could quit and they work for the rest of the month.
So we pay monthly, but we pay very early in the month.
You do.
Yes.
You do. Yeah, I mean, I don't want to touch that for people. I think I get them upset. Leave that alone, they can say, you know. Now, in terms of receiving the payment, the gratuity and the government and the pension, how long does, when someone retires, how long does it take for them to get it?
So that has been a challenge in the past, because we had very manual records.
Oh.
So someone retires and we have to physically pull their file and start to calculate a lot of information on their start dates and employment dates, and sometimes it was a challenge because files were missing information, or some persons would say that their start date is a certain date and our records indicated something different, because there's been a lot of challenges in the past with how employee data was recorded. So under, for example, even the pre-1992 program, if you joined the public service, but you joined the public service as a temporary staff, none of those years counted. And you had persons that were working for years on temporary and not confirmed in post, and so they lost those years of service. So while it was very generous in terms of the calculations, it was very restrictive in terms of the entitlements. And so it sometimes took a while to calculate your pension and gratuity because the information was not readily available. And so persons were submitting affidavits from other persons that were saying, yes, I knew this person worked on this date. And so some of those also had challenges, because you had to challenge the validity of those claims. But what we've done since then is that we are implementing a new HR system that will have all of our HR records automated, so there will be no more paper files, that everything is recorded online.
So it's not done yet? You're working on it?
We're working on it now. It's actually in the phase of being launched. Our consultants were actually supposed to be on island this week doing the final rollout. Because of the winter storms, they're not able to travel, but we are working on an improved HR system that even for current employees will capture all of that data. Now, some of the former employees that have been with us for 30, 40 years, files were lost during Ike and Irma, and so there are some instances where it takes a while to calculate those payments, but also once we have this new pension administration in place, because of the fact that you'll now have these monthly statements and so on, it'll be very easy to calculate your entitlements, because it's being continuously done. So it's not, you're not waiting until the person retires to then say this is what your calculation is.
Right. Because, and then of course, you know, with that statement, you'll have a system.
Yes.
You know, to give you the statement, right? Now, I just want to move away a little bit from pension, and we talked about a little bit earlier about, of course, you are head of the civil servants.
Yes.
And there is a lot of concern about the effectiveness of the civil servants. I know everybody wants more staff and more staff. And quite frankly, I think we have a lot of staff. I think sometimes when we don't have the right people, you end up wanting to have more staff.
Of course.
You might hear all this feedback, and most times you don't hear too many positive things about the civil servants. Most times it's so negative, like they're not doing their job, they are not coming to work on time, they're taking long lunch breaks, you're sitting in line and they're not even paying no attention, eating in front of you. Things are taking long to get done. What assurance can you give to us that there will be improvement and people will be held accountable?
Sure. Thank you. It's important that you raise that, because as the head of the public service, I acknowledge that there are complaints regarding service delivery, and rightfully so. There are significant areas in the public service that need to be addressed. But what I want to say to the public is that my office is actively working towards addressing those issues. As I've said, we have made significant investments in the public service. We've invested in pay, we've invested in pension programs, and I've said to our senior management team, I've been meeting with them yesterday and today. We're holding senior management team meetings with all permanent secretaries, deputy secretaries, directors, assistant directors, and deputy directors. And what I've been saying to them is that the government has made the investments in the public service, but the public is still crying out for better services. And while we've invested significantly in increasing staffing, I mean, everyone sees our recruitment batches go out. They see new persons, they see press releases of persons joining the public service. So you cannot say that we are not hiring. We are hiring. But how are you holding the staff to account, and how are we holding management to account for the jobs that they do? It's very easy for persons to say the public service isn't performing in the deputy governor, but at the end of the day, every ministry and department has a director, it has a HOD, it has a permanent secretary, and it has a deputy director. And I've said to them that they need to hold their staff accountable, or they will have to be held accountable for the delivery that's necessary.
Yes.
There is a lot of positive work going on in the public service. We have teachers that are working every day in overcrowded classrooms because our public schools have significant demand for placements. And so we have teachers that are every day performing in classrooms that are overcrowded. We have nurses that are doing great jobs. We have staff that are working very hard. Your daughter is working in rehabilitation, and they are doing an amazing job. They just recently launched electronic monitoring. Before that, they launched a new chance for change and other programs, and so they're doing amazing work. But that is being overshadowed by the fact that persons are complaining that they can't get their work permit, or they can't get their passport, or they can't get their driver's license. And so it is very unfair that the areas that are not performing are overshadowing the areas that are. So it means that we have to work to address those core areas where persons are having those significant complaints. And a big part of that is actually investment in technology. We have to move away from the manual processes that we currently have in place, so that when you walk into a department, you don't have to physically stand in line to receive certain services. You should be able to receive those services from the comfort of your home or from your phone. We are launching in the next few weeks our quick pay system, so you don't have to physically stand in the treasury. You can actually pay from anywhere online for certain services. So
I'm a test on that system, and it's working really well.
Yes, so we have the quick pay system, which we are rolling out. It's a system that we've been working on for a while now, but we have the quick pay system that's coming on. We recently awarded a contract for digitization in the Ministry of Border Control, because we've seen a significant increase in, of course, requests for work permits over the years, because there's a construction boom occurring right now, and so demand and volume has increased, but we can't continue with the same manual practices. And so we're implementing a new system that persons should be able to submit their documentation online. We do a bit of it now, but not at the rate that we should, but that they should be able to submit their documentation online, and then it's better managed by case management. I believe in also addressing and confronting problems where they exist. And I have to say, and I said this to our management team yesterday in Grand Turk, and I said it to the team here this morning, inefficiency and poor management practices breeds corruption. And so when it takes very long for persons to receive services, or persons can use finances or other means to basically jump the queue, it breeds corruption in the organization. It doesn't help the process. Services have to be offered in the time in which persons submit their applications. And so there has to be less of favoritism in terms of how work is being done.
So we should treat everybody.
Everyone has to be treated the same. And so part of that is also making sure that we change our system, and that now we're shifting around case workers so that they don't have relationships with different businesses or entities. We're changing our flow management so that when applications come in, it's handed out as they come in rather than having to batch them. We are also looking at establishing customer service centers around the Turks and Caicos Islands. And so if you need a passport, you shouldn't have to physically travel to Grand Turk to receive certain services. We're establishing an office in Providenciales. We've just put into the budget for a deputy director of citizenship and registration, so that we can have a proper office set up here in Providenciales that persons can receive services. Likewise, we are restructuring also the district commissioner's office, district administration, so that those offices can provide more services on island.
Oh, okay, that'd be good.
And also having the ministries and departments staff visit the islands more often to offer services, because it's unfair that someone in South Caicos, North or Middle Caicos has to pay more than anyone else in Provo and Grand Turk simply because they have to pay to travel to Provo or Grand Turk to get a service. So there is a lot of work ongoing. We have a new public service strategy, a roadmap. It's a 5-year plan aimed at building a better public service. We recognize the complaints that are currently in place, and we are working hard to address them. So we want to apologize to persons that have had challenges with with service delivery, and we want to say that it's not falling on deaf ears, and my office is certainly working to address them. So that is that. I think that is, first of all, it's important to acknowledge that there's a problem, but then also to advise that we are looking to how we provide solutions to it.
Yeah. Yeah, it's not easy. I mean, even managing people is not easy, and you have all these different personalities. By the end of the day, we must make sure, you know, you have a job, this is what you were hired to do, and get the job done.
Exactly. And we have to performance manage and appraise persons. If you're not, we've worked very hard to increase our public service statistics in terms of Turks and Caicos Islanders in the public service. 85% of our management structure is made up of Turks and Caicos Islanders. That number was actually, when I came to this post, it was actually just over 50%. So we've certainly we've increased the percentage of Turks and Caicos Islanders in managerial roles. We've strengthened our management team by including additional positions, but people have to do the work. They have to do the work, and they have to hold the staff to account. I asked our HODs in the meeting that we had yesterday and today if they could honestly say that every member of their team was performing to their full potential, and not one person could raise their hand and say so. So there is a lot of persons, there are persons in the system that need to be able to be performance managed to do more, or they need to be managed out of the organization, and that's the reality.
Speaking about employees, I wrote an article, and I know it's being brought up again recently in another article by one of the members of parliament. There are concerns among us in the public, when I say us, I mean the public, that there are a number of civil servants who are on suspension. They're getting pay, some getting full pay, some getting half pay. But the concern for most of us is so long. It is so long, some people as much as 5 years. Can you give us an update on what's happening in that area? Because to me that's not punishment. I know that's what the laws say. Even though you're not supposed to be working, people are still working. That's not punishment. You're on suspension, you're getting full pay or half pay. To me, that's not a punishment. And it's too long too. There's a lot of uncertainty, and it messes people's minds up as well.
That is a fair concern. I actually released information on Friday on that.
Oh yes, I read your release. Yes.
So currently across the entire public service, as I said earlier, we have 2,200 employees in the mainstream public service and around 400 employees in the police. So we have over 2,500, close to 2,600 employees. There are currently 21 members of staff that are on disciplinary leave, and that's a combination of administrative leave and suspension.
How many you say?
21.
21.
18 of those persons are in the Ministry of Border Control.
Oh, Border Control.
So the large majority of them are in the Ministry of Border Control. With the exception of persons that have been charged by the courts, if you've been charged by the court for an offense and you're awaiting trial, then you're on a suspension and you receive 50% of your salary. If you are on administrative leave, you receive your full salary. And so the large majority of those persons are on their full salary. There are some matters that are being progressed by the Integrity Commission, and I've met with the Integrity Commission and advised them that we need to agree how those timelines can be reduced, because the persons that you've spoken about that have been on suspension for more than 5 years and so on, they're related to Integrity Commission matters. The Integrity Commission has said that those matters are before the court and that they're waiting for the court to conclude and set trial dates. But as you said, we cannot dictate to the judiciary, but at the same time, there's also has to be fairness in how justice is applied. And even if persons are on suspension with half pay and they're working as half, or as they're on full pay with administrative leave, timeliness is still important in the disciplinary process for both the employee and the employer. So I've had those discussions with the Integrity Commission, because 6 of those persons who are on disciplinary leave are actually dealing with active cases with the Integrity Commission, 2 of which have already been formally charged, and the others are dealing with the internal process. In addition to that, unfortunately, we had a recent incident at the Providenciales Airport where there was over $200,000 that was missing in cash.
Oh, $200,000?
Yes. Oh. And so that is being investigated by the Financial Crimes Unit and the police. We have placed 4 persons on administrative leave because there's no full pay, because there's no determination of guilt as yet, because 4 persons worked in the area, and I think it's clear to say this, that 4 persons worked in the area, but it has to be determined who would have possibly been responsible for that incident. So because of that, persons have been placed on administrative leave to allow the investigation to take place. There's also the investigation that's taking place regarding allegations of abuse, physical abuse and harm by immigration officers, and 5 officers are on administrative leave for that also. That is being dealt with by the Office of the Director of Public Prosecutions and the police, and we've also asked them to wrap that matter up very quickly because the staff need to be notified, and also that's impacting our work because these are people that otherwise would be at work. So it is something that we're actively working on. We are making changes to the Public Service Ordinance and Handbook to put in place timelines for when disciplinary action should be completed.
Good. That's good.
But it's very difficult when some of it is out of our hands. So, for example, as I said, it matters out with the Office of the Director of Public Prosecutions or with the judiciary. I don't have the authority in determining how soon those matters will conclude, but I've asked the court to give priority to them because of the impact it has on the individual and the organization.
Yeah. Yeah, because especially even because you have 21 people that could even impact, unless they're being replaced by other individuals, but it could also impact, the productivity of the department as well.
In immigration, as I said, 18 of those persons are in the Ministry of Immigration and Border Control. And so if they're in that ministry, that means that ministry is deeply impacted by that. The other 3 are spread across 3 different ministries, but the 18 in that ministry is certainly having an impact on operations because it affects the customer service center where some of the staff are on leave. It affects the task force where they're on leave. And so it affects their ability to carry out their jobs.
Yeah. Well, one of those employees told me, who is on suspension, they told me that it's impacting them mentally.
It is.
That's what it is,
Especially, as I said, where an investigation has not concluded whether or not there has been wrongdoing on the part of the person, right?
Yeah.
Because you're associated with it, but you haven't been found to be guilty of any offense, persons generally associate you with the incident.
Yeah.
And so
that has guilty too.
That has an impact on your reputation, and that is unfair to the employee as well. So it is something that we're very conscious of, and we're really, really asking the agencies that work with us on this to give it a priority so that we can conclude these matters. It would really be my wish that these matters would be concluded in the next 3 to 6 months for sure, every one of them.
And what are the normal working hours for government? Is it 8:30, 9 o'clock, and the lunch breaks?
I'm glad you asked
What is that?
So government working hours used to be 8 a.m. to 4:30 p.m. with the lunch hour from 12:30 to 2 p.m.
1.5 hour lunch.
That used to be working hours. Post-COVID, we changed the working hours because civil servants complained that 8 a.m. was too early because they had to drop their children to school and other reasons. So we amended the work hours to 8:30 a.m. start time, but we reduced the lunch hour by 30 minutes. And we also changed it that everyone would not go on lunch at the same time. So we amended the lunch hour that your lunch hour would be 1 hour, but it has to be alternated between the staff to ensure that the departments remain open the full day. So that means that staff would alternate, and they would determine each week whether staff would take lunch from 11 to 12, 12 to 1, or 1 to 2. But government offices are supposed to remain open the full day. And then, of course, close at 4:30 p.m.
Okay.
And we've issued now 2 circulars to staff to remind them of the government working hours, because we have had complaints from the public that customer service centers open at 9, and oftentimes they're a few minutes late because of staff arriving late. So we are dealing with tardiness in the public service as well. In some departments where we've had those issues, we've now implemented time card systems.
Oh, okay.
So you have to, when you come into the office, you have to physically sign into your time card so we can record your time in at work and your absences. We've also raised concerns with staff regarding drop-offs and pickups, because sometimes, of course, persons have to pick up their children. That is natural. But at the same time, you should try to schedule your lunch break or your break around that, because you can't have the lunch break and then afterwards go out to go pick up the children.
Take your lunch break during pickups.
And traffic has changed, particularly here in Providence, where a 10-minute ride sometimes now can take you up to an hour because traffic occurs all day. So you have to properly plan for these things. But government work hours are 8:30 to 4:30 with 1 hour for lunch during the day, alternated between staff.
So you say from 9?
No, 8:30.
8:30?
Customer service centers open at 9, but government employees ought to be at work from 8:30 a.m.
Because last week, I don't normally do this. I normally send my courier. I have a courier that goes into, because I have this new credit card, I get points on it, and they say they don't allow other people to use the credit card. So I personally went in, and I went to Treasury, but I thought they opened at 8:30, but they didn't open until 9 o'clock. But revenue was open at 8:30. which I
Yes.
found very strange. Revenue opened 8:30, but Treasury was open at 9.
Yes, so Treasury, all government employees ought to be at their offices from 8:30. The customer service center is Treasury. Treasury opens
Also,
from 9.
Treasury is considered customer service.
Yes, so Treasury opens from 9 to 3 and 9 to 4 on certain days. And the reason why Treasury has to do it, because Treasury certainly has certain operating
Balancing and all that
procedures,
stuff.
balancing, banking, security. We have to make sure our cash is in order and everything else. So Treasury has 9 to 4, 9 to 3 on certain days and 9 to 4 on others. But Revenue Control Unit, all staff are to report to work from 8:30. So usually if the staff arrive at 8:30, they start to see customers as soon as they're in the office.
I see. Okay, so I didn't realize
Yes.
that Treasury was considered customer service.
Yes, Treasury is.
Right.
I mean, Revenue has a customer service and center also, because remember, Revenue has business licensing and so on. But as long as our staff are at work in that area, they will serve customers from 8:30.
Okay, so in terms of the departments, for example, Revenue and Treasury, let's I'm not want to pick on them, but just say, are they cross-trained? Because sometimes it's only like 2 or I think most times I've ever seen is three cashiers. Are they cross-trained? So if Treasury, if Revenue doesn't have many people in line, where they could take customers from the Treasury, is that possible, or are they still different functions?
They are different departments and different functions. Treasury is very, very specific because it's cash. They're managing cash and so on, and so we want to control that environment. We want to add more cashiers, but space is a constraint where we're currently located, but also we're balancing that on the fact that we're also launching Quick Pay. And so with Quick Pay, we're trying to reduce the number of persons in Treasury. And to be honest with you as well, a lot of persons that visit Treasury to make payments today don't have to do so, because we do email you receipts, we do allow you to pay by check and so on, but some persons physically still want to go in Treasury to get that receipt. Now, one area where you have to physically go in, of course, is accommodation tax.
Yeah.
So
the Quick Pay
Quick Pay is supposed to address part of that.
Okay.
So that is part of the solution, but accommodation tax is the one area where you still have to physically go in Treasury. But for some of the other payments, you can pay at departments, or you can pay online, you can pay by check, we do mail drop. So there are other options, but I believe a big part of it is public education and awareness too. We spoke about this earlier, communication. Persons may not be aware of the options that they have available to them, that they don't have to physically travel to departments for services.
Yeah. Even with the accommodation tax, you get an email.
Yes.
And they email you the forms. But then the payment part, like you say, you have to physically go in. Pay.
Yes, but we're trying to reduce the physical footprint in the Treasury and elsewhere. That is part of our goal, so that persons can have more easy access to government services.
Right. We have 5 minutes left, but I want you to go back to the government pension plan. Are there anything that you think that we have not discussed about the pension plan? Because this is very critical for the people to understand about where they fit, their status. Is there anything else you think that we have not covered?
What I believe is that, as I said earlier, public education and awareness from both the Turks and Caicos Islands government and NIB is very important. I believe that NIB certainly puts out a number of releases and so on. I'm not sure how much persons pick up on those, but we have certainly put out background information on our pension program as well, but I acknowledge that we have to do more, because I don't believe persons fully understand, as I said, their entitlements. I believe that the new system that we're launching will help that, because we will have the online portals where you can log in, you can review your payment, you can review your status, you can have statements provided to you. So I think that will help our current employees. But some of those employees that are legacy employees from former years, I believe that they need to properly understand their entitlements. I know that persons sometimes write in asking queries on how these things are being addressed. I think that we have to clear some of those former issues. And so, as I said, the pension program amendments were not backdated. It does not include employees from before. So a lot of persons have been agitating for that. And I think until government makes a decision on that and concludes it, there's still that expectation or that hope that it will happen. So I hope that we can soon get to a final conclusion on how we treat the former employees, looking, of course, at cost and affordability, but then also looking at how we manage this program. I think generally, though, there has to be more awareness in terms of fiscal responsibility. And how do you plan and savings and so on. We're in the public service. We have been trying to do more financial literacy programs.
Yeah, some of your departments.
I know that you have been working on launching this investment for TCI, for Turks and Caicos Islands initiative. I think that's very important.
Yes.
Helping persons to understand how they can buy stocks for small amounts, how they can have their own investment programs. I think that these things are important. Looking at mortgages and how they are calculated in loans. I recently read an article where it was speaking to stats provided by the FSC on how so many loans had become delinquent in the last quarter. So helping us to properly understand planning for financing and budgeting is a big part of it. Planning for retirement, not only just retirement, but planning for how you manage your monthly expenses. We've been saying to our staff to work towards cutting down on all these short-term loans. We offer our staff 4 salary advances a year.
Oh, 4.
So they can have 4 salary advances a year, where they can pay back. They can have their a month's basic salary, a month's salary, and they can pay it back in 3 installments. But we've encouraged our staff to not utilize that option continuously, because you have some members of staff who take up the 4, but as long as you're paying that amount back every month, it inhibits your ability to save and to do elsewise. Now, I know that it's based on affordability, because of course if you have fiscal challenges, you may need the short-term injection, but at the same time it hurts you financially in the long term, because as long as you're having to make those payments, it's difficult for you to catch up. You're always in a position of trying to catch up. So I believe financial literacy is more important. It's very, very important for us, helping persons to understand what NIB is and what you're entitled to, and also what the Turks and Caicos Islands government is offering, but at the same time recognizing that we will never be able to provide you with enough to provide you with the same lifestyle that you're living when you're working, because a pension payment and a terminal benefit payment will always only be a portion of your previous salary.
It's not a substitute.
It is not a substitute, so you will never be able to have the same amount that you had while you were full-time engaged. And so mortgage planning is important, so that way you know that you schedule your mortgage so that you can have it, at least try to have it paid off either at the time that you retire or shortly after. These things are very, very important, because a pension payment will never fully replace a salary.
And that's very good points. And I also want, can you stress to people too about, because a lot of people complain about the amount they get. The amount you get is based on
the amount you get is based on your contribution. It's based on your salary. So if it depends on what your salary was at the time, that is what your payment is going to be. And what you were making in the public service years before is not going to match up to what it is now. And so even though National Insurance have made adjustments, because they've made slight increases to their benefits in some instances, they've made generous ones in others, because now you have we've increased for persons over 70. I believe National Insurance has increased the payment that now you can receive $1,000 per month and so on if you're over the age of 70.
The government did that, I think.
The government did that,
not National Insurance.
Yeah, but I mean, government did it through National Insurance. Yes, government partnered with National Insurance. Government is fully funding it, though. Let's be clear on that.
Yes.
Government is fully funding that. It's not National Insurance, because persons have complained and said National Insurance is paying these persons that didn't contribute. Government is fully funding that program because of the hardship that was experienced by those individuals. But your terminal benefit payment is calculated on your salary and on basically what you paid in.
Well, I want to thank you again. Very informative show based on the feedback, and even just talking to you, it's very informative.
Thank you.
And I really want to, I know when my sister's about to retire, she went to NIB and found out everything. And I think that's why you need to know in advance what you are expected, what you expect to receive. Don't wait until after retirement. At least if you know in advance, and maybe you can write in getting permission from your ministry to extend your time. And that's part of the problem. We wait until it's all already done. So it's important for you, in fact, every year you should just get an update. Go into NIB, and now soon you'll get your statements from government to understand, because your retirement, 60 is getting really fast. People, that age, time is flying really, really fast. So it's important for you to have a plan in place. And as I told people, even the young people, don't try and get a mortgage don't get a 30-year mortgage at 40. You know what I mean? Try and get 20-year mortgage or 15-year mortgage, because you don't want to be paying mortgage at 60 and 65. So if you could reduce your mortgage payments, I think that's very, very important, because I think mortgage payment or rent may be one of the highest elements of your spending. So I encourage you to find out what it is that you'll be getting when you retire. you cannot blame the deputy governor. You shouldn't blame. But I mean, I don't know if this is how it happens in other regions, but for you to have a national insurance plan and also for the government to have a pension plan, I think that's very generous. I really think that's very generous. You have national insurance and you're going to be getting a pension plan from government. Really and truly, I think we should be thankful and grateful for that. But it's up to us now to manage our finances. And I just hope the Deputy Governor's office is open. Please, feel free to do the right thing. Reach out to them, and don't go and make accusations without getting information first. And everybody, pension is not the same thing. If you join after April 19th, April 6, 1992, and someone joined before April 92, you cannot compare, because the person who joined before April 1992 is on the old pension scheme. They'll get a better plan. But if you join afterwards, you'll still get a good plan, 6%, and they'll give it over 2 payments. So thank you very much again.
Thank you.
I want to have a great week. Enjoy the rest of the month. See you next week.